on screen with the few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. They're driving theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
What up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. It is Monday night. It is 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. It is December 12th, 2022, and you're tuned into the Drive-In Speaker Box, the best in movie talk and film reviews and all fun stuff that happened, people that died. We're going to talk about that. Yay!
Yeah, I got two of them.
And all that in between. I'm your host, Bo, the boom operator.
I am Slick Doggy, the grip.
And if you're just tuning us for the first time, we are going to be talking to you about movies. We're going to be talking about TV shows. We're going to talk to you about nostalgia. We're going to talk about the future. We are the ghosts of past, present, and future in terms of movies.
We are the world. We are the children.
But thanks for tuning in. If you are downloading this audio version, wherever it is you get your podcast, you could tune into the live stream at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube Live. One of those things. You can check it out over there. You can get involved in the comments, just like Tony Garrett over on YouTube saying, "Hey, you guys," which hopefully you're munching on a Baby Ruth and enjoying the show.
Baby Ruth?
Baby?
Wish I could make my ears move like...
Baby?
Yeah.
But then we've been chatting for a while. We do a little behind-the-scenes chat over on Twitch. If you guys want to follow us over on Twitch and become a subscriber, you can get like 30 minutes of extra content occasionally if I'm up here getting everything dialed in and flick on those cams, and you can get involved in the chat there, which you can see over to I guess it would be your right camera. Right. But anyway, let's jump into some news tonight. Do we want to start with some sad stuff? We want to start with some dead people? Because I feel like there's always someone that dies.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, one of my favorite composers died this week, and that was really kind of a bummer because he has, the musical genius that this dude is, and Angelo Badalamenti, this guy.
He just died yesterday.
This guy, but before the Drive-In Speaker Box became what it is now, like two dudes sitting here talking about movies, it was not really a talk show. It was a show about film scores, and the show started on the radio where we were allowed to play music because we were underneath a broadcast license, and we weren't going to get like flagged for copyright infringement because we've had we had those FCC protections in place. And Angelo Badalamenti was a guy that I played a lot on the show. I mean, this guy has, I'm listening to a lot of his music right now because National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He did the score to that. Twin Peaks. Everybody knows Twin Peaks. That's a huge one. He's just been, Lost Highway was another huge one.
He did a couple of things for Lynch, didn't he? He's like Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks.
Mulholland Drive, The Beach, The Secretary, which is a really cool film. If you've never seen it, it's all about like spankings. If you've ever seen it, it's a good one. And he was just. I
want to watch a movie about spankings.
Don't lie to me, Jake. It's the good kind of spankings. Anyway, Secretary. It's a good movie. Anyway, he was a fantastic composer, and we could sit here and list movies that he's done, and it'd be the whole show. But very, very, very good composer. He's like so many awards this guy has won. And the thing about film score composers, there's not a whole lot of them. There's some greats, and he was up there with the greats. Everybody goes, John Williams, and John Williams, of course, is John Williams, and at a certain point, you listen to enough John Williams, and it all kind of sounds the same. But It all kind of sounds
He
the
did
same.
Superman though, right? Didn't John Williams do?
Yeah, and it sounds exactly
No,
like...
Superman and Harry Potter sound way different.
Okay, hum a Star Wars theme, a Superman theme, and an Indiana Jones theme back to back to back, and see if they start to blend together in your head.
Superman will be different.
Will it? Hum it. Let's go.
Indiana Jones.
Hum it. Let's go.
I'm not gonna do that.
Cause you can't. Cause now that I put the other two earworms in your head,
Superman's
you're dun 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 dun.
No, see, way different.
Okay.
There's Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Like, yeah, they like do like that.
And
thing.
Superman.
Nah.
Anyway, but Badalamenti was one of those guys that was just always doing really interesting stuff and had a really wide range. And Vince, thumbs up on Secretary. It's good stuff. Dina says, no, it's easy to pick out a John Williams score, same as a Danny Elfman score.
Yeah, Danny Elfman's easy to be like.
Yep, you can be like, bloink.
That's Batman.
Yeah, those guys are really, really easy to pick out. But you have guys like Jerry Goldsmith, who is just a little bit of a chameleon when it comes to, you're like, oh shit, that was Jerry Goldsmith. Guys like Badalamenti, Alan Silvestri, although some of Silvestri scores you can kind of always nail them and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Alan Silvestri. But Michael Giacchino is also one of these guys who was an up-and-comer in the 90s as a new film composer when Lost kind of hit the scene. And he again has really grown and evolved and is a bit of a chameleon and can do all kinds of stuff. Hans Zimmer, you can hear a Hans Zimmer score from a mile away, but he also has a pretty good range. There's some scores where you're like, well, that's Hans Zimmer. And it didn't have a qualm somewhere in there. Giorgio Moroder has a style, but he does morph a bit. And he didn't do a whole lot of scores. The one that ever...
More movies with soundtracks by Giorgio Moroder, please.
Well, everybody, the funny thing is one of his most famous film score songs is bum 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 and everybody's like, yeah, this is a cool dance jam. And it was like the theme song to Coast AM, which is an AM radio talk show that's legendary about like aliens and ghosts and shit like this. But it's really the theme song to an incredibly depressing movie called Midnight Express. And Midnight Express is about this guy trying to escape like torture in a Turkish prison, and it's like
dude, Giorgio Moroder always goes hard.
Yeah, it's so
they
good.
Play that song in like Hot Rod.
Oh yeah, Giorgio Moroder, and he has a style. Another guy, Tangerine Dream, also does a lot of film scores, but you can hear a Tangerine Dream score a mile away, and they're always awesome.
Talking about Giorgio Moroder and movies and stuff, if you've ever watched Yacht Rock, which I 100% recommend, there are episodes, the later episodes, when Kenny Loggins has gotten into the movie scene, and he's turned his back on smooth music. Moroder comes in, and he's just like a space being of like Eurofunk and just is the coolest.
God, I love Giorgio Moroder. Giorgio. Vince says, I was watching a 30s movie and the score sounded like The Wrath of Khan. I read in the trivia that Khan score is just left over from this old movie.
That's cool.
Interesting. But anyway, pouring one out for Angela Badalamenti. Sad stuff.
Well, and sticking with that, talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all of that, someone who has worked on every one of those passed away as well. Richard Miller passed away at 80. He was a sculptor for Industrial Light and Magic. They brought him in for Return of the Jedi. He's most famed as the man that designed the Leia metal bikini and Davy Jones' tentacle beard from Pirates of the Caribbean. But he worked on, get this, he was brought in for Return of the Jedi. He worked on all the Star Wars prequels. He did the first 3 Pirates movies. He was in several of the Next Generation Trek movies, starting with Generations First Contact. He did those. He was in Back to the Future 2 and 3, The Rocketeer, Last Crusade,
all the cool stuff.
Howard the Duck, Inner Space, Willow, Hook, the best Christmas movie, He was in The Mask, Jumanji, and he did Roger Rabbit. I mean, the dude did my entire formative ages.
He was responsible for all of it.
Yeah, he's responsible for movies. And the coolest thing about him, but the worst thing about his passing is that over the past 2 decades, he's been teaching sculpting as enrichment courses for the people at ILM. So while everyone at ILM is doing nothing but CGI stuff and computer everything, he was sitting there teaching everyone how to sculpt and how things worked in the real world and how you did movie magic and real effects when that was still a thing, when you still had real in movies, when stuff existed for
tangible
film.
Physical stuff. We say this a lot on the show. It's like, our favorite effects are the practical effects because it exists. It's there. It might be a miniature. It might be a rubber skull. Or a sculpture, but and you can interact with it. And you hear actors all the time say, like, that's one of the reasons the T-Rex, like the Jurassic Park scene when they first see the T-Rex is so powerful because it was there. And it wasn't like a tennis ball on a green screen where actors are kind of trying to pretend that it's scary. It's there.
Well, and talking like Star Wars, like the Rancor, even like stop motion, the fact that it's real, the Rancor looks way cooler than any CGI would look.
Yeah.
At any time. So.
And it has more of a how'd they do that. I say this on the show a lot. If you've never listened to the show, this is new to you, but if you've listened to the show for years, like some of our viewers, the movie magic is not so much about how cool a special effect is. It's more of a how'd they do that. Just like a David Copperfield or a magician on stage, they're not wizards, but you're like, how
Copperfield.
I know he did make the Statue of Liberty disappear, but you're like, how did they do that? And the fact that you take this moment and you're like, I don't know how it was done, and it's cool because you're like, wow, that's a cool trick. And just like practical effects or a big giant rubber monster, his head explodes, or like the scanner's head exploding scene, you're like, that is awesome. How'd they do that? And
Like
nowadays,
all the stuff in The Thing,
literally the entire movie of The Thing, you're like, how the did they do that? And it's cool because you're like, wow, someone made that, and that's impressive. But nowadays, like, that's why I just don't get wowed by these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I'm like, oh, they had a team of Koreans in a sweatshop pounding away on keyboards. Like, that's how they did that.
Yeah, you
like,
get to the end of the movie and it's always like dudes with very Central European or like Eastern European names, or Pakistani or Indian names, or Korean names.
And it's just like legions of them. It's like FX department.
Yeah, they shopped this out to a CG studio somewhere.
And if you can make me wonder how they did that, that's where that movie magic. And I think that's where the first going to Avatar, because we're going to be talking about it a little bit later in the show and probably sooner than later. The first one had a lot of how'd they do that factor because James Cameron invented a lot of new technology for that movie. And I don't know, I know this next one's going to make a lot of money, but we all know how it's done. And
I like Dina's how'd they do it, Kermit riding a bicycle.
How'd they do it?
How did Kermit's legs work?
Let's see. I think the best effects mix of everything, CGI and soon AI to seem actively suck your imagination, says Vince over on Twitch. The AI, that's a whole can of worms that I think we have yet to even scratch the surface of copyright laws and how this is going to affect media moving forward. Because, I've been playing around with the AI generators. They're easy, they're crazy, they're addictive and fun to use, but they're also just plagiarism machines, and they're pulling in images, and you can even see on a lot of these images coming out where the stock photography like stuff that's like blended into the thing, and you're like, well, they just pulled this off of Getty Images, and they're like smashing it together with algorithms.
Yeah, I did it for like everyone else, and one of the pictures there's like a little girl over my shoulder. It like gave me like a hypothetical child that's like somewhere between 7 to 10 or something like that over my shoulder, and I'm like, why do I have a child in this picture?
And
it was like upload nothing but pictures of you and your face and make it work different angles, and then I did it, and it was like, you have a weird child now. And then there's one
like a Bruce Campbell head coming out of your shoulder.
Yeah, kind of. I'll show you later. But there's also one where there's a crowd of like oblong me's behind me. It's just like a horde of like misshapen me's eerily staring at the back.
So
of
I didn't
real
use
me.
the app that everybody's talking about. So I've been using Midjourney, which is
Like the ones where you put in the prompt and
yeah, you have to like learn how to use the prompts, and you can go crazy. I've made a lot of weird stuff on it. I have not done any of the portraits. I don't know. There's something weird about uploading my face.
It's not worth the $5 to $8 that it costs to do it.
Oh, dude, Midjourney's $30 for a month, and you get unlimited images, and it's kind of fun.
Oh, that's not bad.
Dina says, I'm writing about AI usage and colorization of photos and films, so it has its virtues, but the whole conversation is dense. And yes, I think that this technology is going to revolutionize a lot of stuff, but I feel like it's also going to really be extremely murky before we figure out. I think there's going to be a big pendulum effect on it where everybody's going to be using it. Everybody's going to want to use it. And then somebody's got to figure out how to monetize it. And then they got to figure out who gets the money. And that's where it all comes down to. Kind of like some of that news we were going to talk about earlier or today when Westworld pulling HBO or HBO Max pulling Westworld from HBO because it's expensive. We don't want to pay the residuals to these actors and actresses that are in this movie. So we just debuted it, but we're about to pull it. We're about to pull all of it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
I missed this. Westworld, HBO's series.
They're pulling it from HBO Max.
So you can't watch an HBO show on HBO.
No, because as long as it's streaming on HBO and is still within their contract time with the actors, they have to pay residuals to these actors as it's on HBO. And since no one's really watching it, they don't see it as a profitable model to continue to pay these actors and actresses these residual payments. So they're pulling it from the show to save money. And yeah, you see this moth that's just going crazy.
I thought it was on a spider web. I was trying to save it.
No, he's just having a good old time.
It's different than this.
But yeah, I mean, it's all going to be money, and this AI stuff is going to be money. It's kind of like the de-aging, and like young Peter Cushing in the Star Wars movie. It's like, who owns the rights to your face? Like when you're dead, who gets to make money off your face? And it's a big conversation, and it's not gonna have a solution anytime soon. Yeah. So anyway.
One thing actually related to movies about this, Dina brought in that Peter Jackson used some AI technique for They Shall Not Grow Old, and archivists have been so mad. Why? That documentary was fantastic. It's very good. I watched it in the theater, reviewed it on the show. It's so good, and I think the AI was really the only way that he could rescue a lot of that film and make it work. But the thing about it was that he took film from World War I, and he added in audio that didn't exist or was deteriorated beyond the point,
and estimated what the colors would be,
and was able to add some color, but complete some people's faces. I think is where the AI part of it came in, is completing the image in some ways and adding color and stuff, but it made it very human and real. And the thing was too, in addition to that, he brought in people that read lips, and he hired people that came from the same town in the same province and all that stuff that those guys came from, so that their accents from the specific British town that they came from was portrayed through that person. Like he looked up who it was on film, where they were from, and found out what they would have sounded like based on the specific village that they lived in, and he had someone from there voice them, and it was amazing.
He's Peter Jackson, and as Dina says over on Twitch, she follows up and says,
"How do you explain The Hobbit? You can't just use he's Peter Jackson."
He says archivists are mad that it sets an unrealistic expectation for how archival materials can be presented and digitized.
So actually, when you watch that movie in the theater, and I'm sure it exists on the disc version, they have a little documentary about it, and they're like, "This ain't something that just happens. It took like years and years of them making and researching and making sure that everything applied to that was as accurate and true as possible."
Well, I mean,
there's no guesswork.
It's why I get mad at the Waltons, like for opening up all these businesses here in Bentonville that set unrealistic expectations for people to go, dine and get a drink at these businesses that they build that are like they're pumping millions and millions of dollars into like a cool little corner restaurant, and everyone's like, well, why does your bar not do this because the one in Bentonville does? And it's like, well, I'm not funded by a trillionaire. So yeah, I mean, I understand that unrealistic expectations, but I mean, honestly, come on, this is a movie.
Yeah, Vince said something about people only want Ken Burns documentaries. Ken Burns documentaries are good too, man. They're not bad, but there was one film for that Peter Jackson did. You know what I'm saying? And it was a lot of work. So a little bit different in terms of how they made that happen.
Vince just said he thought I was upset at the TV show The Waltons. So I do forget that not everybody lives where we live. We live in Northwest Arkansas, a.k.a. the heart of Walmart. And so one of the richest families on the planet lives in our area, and they invest heavily into our area, building businesses that they want to see and kind of playing Sim City with our area. And so yeah, when I reference the Waltons, it is that family of quadruple gajillionaires.
When are they going to have Godzilla come stomp the place?
God, who knows? They just keep putting in the cheat code.
That's what I did. I would always have Godzilla, or on the Super Nintendo version, I had giant Bowser, just come crush my SimCity. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, do you have any other news bits that you're doing? Because I don't want to talk about the Golden Globes because
there was a bunch of stuff I had and it all got left at work. I talked about that in the pre-show, but one thing I did remember about is Julie Andrews, I guess, has been being asked about Princess Diaries 3, and she's like, it ain't gonna happen, dude. And everyone's like, but why? And she goes, we talked about it after the second one came out, but now Anne Hathaway is an adult and she's grown and probably doesn't want to get back involved in that. And she was like, plainly just like, I'm too damn old, you guys. I'm in my 80s. It's not gonna happen.
It's ridiculous.
Her like exact quote was, in reality, that's probably not going to happen. Be real. But really what she said is like, well, I mean, shit's not going to happen.
What's funny, though, is her argument is like, I'm too old for this. Meanwhile, Harrison Ford is being injected with liquid money to be like, da 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 da, and going to be an action hero once more.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a difference between the star of The Sound of Music and friggin' Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, you can't inject her with enough money because they don't have enough for a project like that. But, they can. Well, it was like the South Park episode, just curing AIDS by throwing more and more money at it.
Yeah, that's how Magic Johnson cured it. $30,000 of pure cash injected directly into the bloodstream.
Well, but in other news, one little bit of news that I wanted to
points out, Indy and Sound of Music lady, both fought against Nazis. There you go.
Oh, well, look at that. One bit of news that I wanted to mention that I thought was hysterical is, according to the Hollywood Reporter this week, Stephen Curry is teaming up with Amazon Studios for a feature film based on the Sega Genesis video game Toe Jam and Earl.
Is it
now? If this was like an animated,
hand-drawn animated, 3D CG.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to see 3D CG. If this was a hand-drawn animated movie, I really love Toe Jam and Earl.
People walk in the theater that don't know about it, and the soundtrack will hit them, and they'll sit through for like an hour and a half, and they're like, what the hell did I just sit through? Yeah, I love how's a movie going to make sense out of a procedurally generated level video game?
Well, about like terrible Earthlings, these two. So Toe Jam and Earl, if you've never played the 1991 Sega Genesis video game, it had a sequel called Panic on Funkatron, and then it had two other sequels, one on Xbox and one as late as 2019, which I think I downloaded, and it played a little bit of it, and it wasn't bad either. And it was
not the one that we used to play together.
No, that was the last one, the one that just came out. There was Panic on Funkatron was still on Sega Genesis, and there was one on Xbox, like Xbox One, and then there was one that we played, the newest one that just came out in 2019. We played
Xbox
that
one.
Or Xbox, the first one.
Oh, original
Xbox, yeah. And so it's about these two aliens, Toe Jam and Earl, and they come from planet Funkatron, and they are cruising through the universe, just bumping fat beats, just looking for snacks and just trying to party. Well, something happens and they crash land on Earth, and their ship's all scattered apart.
Yeah, they screw it up.
And they're like, crap, we got to go search this goofy-ass planet to find our pieces of ship. It's a dude, where's my car scenario. And they got to go assemble their Funks-powered spaceship to get back to Funkatron. But all these weird-ass humans are kind of in the way trying to get them. And it's a great game. It's a fun game to play with a friend. It's one of the best OG co-op games that ever hit consoles. And it's silly. And I think this is going to be a dumbass movie.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to do like an 80s or 90s movie where instead of being the monsters or it being animated, it's just going to be two guys in remotely similar outfits. And they're going to be like, you're Toe Jam and I'm Earl. And they walk around and they just act weird. Yeah, it'll be like the Fat Albert movie, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah, where they're just like, we're slightly out of place. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, well, hey, let's befriend you. And then there's like the one person that's their friend and shows them around. And they're like, oh, it's okay that you're weird. And they're like, yeah, spaceship, bye.
Because, yeah, I don't want to see a Toe Jam and Earl that is not a big, fat, one-eyed cheeseburger monster.
It'll just be Earth Girls Are Easy with a Toe Jam and Earl soundtrack.
God damn it. I don't want that. Now, if they somehow Sonic the Hedgehog this, I will be pleasantly surprised. If they pull off a Sonic, I will be like genuinely shocked. But I'm not excited about this news, despite this being one of my favorite Sega Genesis games of all time. And
they should make a Booger Man movie.
Oh God, Booger Man.
You know what, too? Netflix, talking about things that don't need to be done. They announced that they're doing a live-action My Hero Academia for all you weebs out there.
Speaking of things that don't need to happen, live-action animes.
Yeah, live-action animes. But Netflix just doing it all. They're going to do One Piece. They're going to do My Hero Academia. They're probably going to find something else that they fan base, and they're going to be like, well, what if we make it weird? So there's that for all the weebs out there. Talking about weebs, there at the beginning of the show, Vince asked me if I'd heard of Shin Ultraman. Looked like a Fathom event. I haven't, but Ultraman is rad AF. So maybe I'll look into that. Talking about Ultraman style stuff, I did find at the bookstore while looking for Christmas presents for people that there is a omnibus of the original run of Kamen Rider in hardcover.
Moomin Rider?
No. Kamen Rider.
I like Moomin Rider from One Punch Man.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Oh, he's so funny. He just rides a bicycle. It's great. It's great.
Kamen Rider's out there, and Kamen Rider is a super killer TV show.
Well, one more piece of news before we get into the rest of the show, because we're out of time for news. Dune Part 2 wrapped principal photography this week, so going to post-production, so it's moving forward.
We didn't talk anything about how DC is disintegrating.
Did we not talk about that last week?
No, because
more
more
just
stuff
talking
has
about
come
it in
out.
the Discord.
Yeah, more stuff has come out about how
follow us in our Discord.
Wonder Woman 3 apparently is just not going to happen or something like that. Henry Cavill, even though he left Witcher to be Superman, might not be Superman anymore. At least he won't appear as Superman. And Jason Momoa has reportedly canceled all projects with Aquaman moving forward because he's going to be recast as Lobo. All of you know that I love Lobo, and I think that's super cool, except I wanted my Steve Austin Lobo.
Although you have said many times on this show that they're like, well, Jason Momoa would make a pretty good Lobo, but he's already cast as Aquaman. You have said those words.
Jason Momoa should have been Lobo instead of Aquaman.
Agreed.
But instead they made him Aquaman. So they need to make Steve Austin Lobo so that he can do, just like I said, come in at the end credits of Black Adam 2 and bust through the glass. So you have the shattered glass Steve Austin, and he gets off of the bike and he goes, "Oh, hell yeah, you dumb bastard." And he like starts slamming beers. Yeah, and then he like stunners everyone in the room.
And then takes them off planet.
Yeah, and then takes them off to sell them for bounties. That would be the best. Steve Austin, be Lobo. I need it. He could be a bald Lobo. I'll even put up with Steve Austin being bald Lobo. Steve Austin would look weird with hair again. He hasn't had hair since he was a Hollywood blonde.
I don't think he's ever had hair.
Yeah, dude, when he was Stunning Steve.
That's not familiar. I'm not familiar.
He was part of the Hollywood Blondes.
That's way before like the
blonde.
The only my first reference of Steve Austin was like in the 90s. I worked at Spencer's Gifts, and they had all these Stone Cold Steve Austin crap that we would sell, and just redneck buttholes would come in and get their Hell Yeah shirts, and I was like, what is this guy?
I got a Stone Cold shirt and it says "stomping mud holes and walking them dry" on the back of it.
Oh man, yeah. Okay, well, I've got to respond to this message really quick. It's work related, but let's talk about movies that are coming out in theaters this week, because there's only one really big one.
Yep, one big one that everything has been making way for, which is why Black Panther continues to just run wild to a point. It's not the kind of money Marvel would expect, but the reason that everything is creating such a wide berth, in addition to Disney's Marvel nonsense, is Avatar 2: The Way of Water is coming out, and it's just going to make every dollar.
And well, I was looking at, my family, we always go see a movie on Christmas Day. That's kind of a thing we've been doing for, as long as I can remember. And this year's been challenging because we're like, okay, well, what's playing? And it's everything, nothing that we have. It's like Puss in Boots, which is coming out next weekend. Avatar, which is 3 hours and 10 minutes. And then we're like, oh, we'll go see Babylon, which is 3 hours and 5 minutes. Like, what is with the, and then you got like Wakanda, which is 3 hours. And you got like, why are all these movies 3 hours? Like, I don't want to go to the movies for 3 hours. Like, I really, really don't, y'all.
Speaking of, thanks for being with us tonight instead of being out there watching Conan the Barbarian right now, but there is another chance to watch it tomorrow. That's where your boy will be. But I looked up the show runtime for Conan the Barbarian because I do work at night times, and it is 170 minutes long. Wow. They have stretched Conan the Barbarian to 3 hours. I don't know how much of that will be extra content. It is the 40th anniversary.
Because it's a 2-hour movie. It is a 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. How did they make it a 3-hour movie?
Yeah,
I mean, I've owned every edition of the DVD that there is. How is this? How did they make it a 3-hour movie?
40th anniversary, man.
How?
Maybe they show how they made the snake. Maybe it's just 25 minutes of Arnold talking about how itchy and uncomfortable the black paint was. I don't know. Because I've seen I've way too long of an interview about that.
The commentary on the DVD is hysterical.
It itched. It was so scratchy. The black, it didn't come off. We hit it with soap in the hotel, and it didn't come off, and it itched like mosquitoes.
My favorite part was like
something like
in the original commentary to the first edition of the DVD. Arnold had not watched this movie since they wrapped filming. Right.
Oh, that commentary track was like, what is this? What is this coming up? Oh, yeah, I remember we did this.
Oh, I punched that camel. Oh my! I got laid a lot in this movie. Oh my God! Oh, and it's so hysterical. It is one of the best DVD commentary tracks I've ever heard, because he's just like, I've not watched this movie since we finished. Oh my God, it's so old. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Vince says the Fathom event opera he's going to watch is 3.5 hours. I would expect that from something like that. And if it's being live streamed or cast or whatever, I imagine there's probably still an intermission in there, like most stage plays tend to have. Conan is just going to be sitting straight through it. I've watched Conan a million times. I don't recall it being 3 hours, but I doubt I'm going to be upset about it.
It's just like 30 extra minutes of him on the Wheel of Pain, just like growing
biting the vultures and stuff.
No, that's the Tree of Woe.
Oh, the Tree of Woe. Yeah,
the Wheel of Pain is when he's a kid and he gets freaking.
So it shows him through more stages of his life. It's like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or it's him like sharpening the Atalantean sword
just for days. And it's just like, what I would see is the adventures of Conan and Subutai, like just rolling through towns, like thieving on jewels, just like tavernizing the town, getting Black Lotused up, and just like squeezing booties. And
What it's gonna be, the extra time is gonna be the cook at the snake orgy with the green human soup, and he's going to be like taking ingredients, and he's like, oh, just a pinch of salt
and eyeball.
Yeah, and he's like taste testing it. He's like, and like adding in more spices, and it's just him like stirring the pot of green juice with the hands in it.
Well, and the guy, when he walks away, he grabs the hand and goes, ow, like bites the finger. It's so silly. Dino on Twitch says, I'm also kind of interested in the increase in epic run times for films. I feel like there's some research they're using to not require the films be edited down. And I'm curious about this too, because I've been thinking a lot about it, and I feel like it's about like theater dominance, and that's just a theory that I've had about being able to take over more screens of a theater so that you're the only option in these theaters. Because like all these multiplexes, if you've got these contracts where you have to be on X number of screens and show this so many times, well, if you got 3-hour runtime movies, you can't show as many movies because you have to make room for those 3-hour movies. So I don't know. I really don't know, because I don't feel like it's something about like, well, I'm paying $10, better get my money's worth. A good movie is its money's worth, not how long it is. Like that.
Well, no one's ever looked at a movie and been like, wow, 3 hours? Hell yes, I'm definitely getting what
unless
I paid
it was
for.
Dune. When I saw the runtime for Dune, I was like, hell yes.
Yeah, half of it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
But the majority, no one's going to the movies because like, dude, you see this movie's 4 hours long? I feel like I'm getting my $10 or $15 worth of it. No, most people are like, I'm going to go watch the movie because of the movie, and then the runtime is inconsequential unless it runs long. And they're like, I don't want to get up and pee and miss part of my movie, because then it's always going to be at the part where like, what happened?
What a miss. Golly dang.
That's like, what was that movie? The World War I movie that came out a year or two ago.
Dunkirk?
No, it's like One Shot, and it's like about those guys. Like it's called like 1917 or something like that.
Yeah,
that movie. I actually, on a rare occasion,
wasn't One Shot. It was edited to look like it was One Shot.
Yeah, on a rare occasion that I had to use the bathroom, I had to get up and pee, and I came back, and I was like, oh, I clearly missed something important, because there wasn't one part of that movie where you could get up and use the bathroom, except for the one part that I was like, oh, I can't use the bathroom right now. What if something happens? And it turned out there was like 10 minutes of nothing. And then right after that, if you missed 1 second,
well, that's the thing with 3-hour movies. There's lots of points where there's 10 minutes,
but you
of
don't
nothing.
know.
Yeah.
Isn't there a website that tells you when it's safe to go pee in a movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like I forget the name of the website, but it's like a PP counter or PP time or something where you go when to pee. I think is maybe the way. I don't know, but there is a website and an app where it's Run Go Pee. That's it. Run Go Pee. Thank you, Vince. Okay, well, it is. We got 20 minutes left, so let's review some stuff. So we just covered the fact that Avatar's coming out in theaters this next weekend. If I am gonna go see it, I'm gonna try and see it in 3D IMAX like it's intended, which I can't stand because I'm not a fan of our IMAX because it's a IMAX and the chairs are uncomfortable, and I'm not a big fan of 3D because it makes my head hurt and the lights are never correctly calibrated. It has to be pitch black dark. Wear those fucking glasses. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you. I'm gonna do it for you, James Cameron.
Yeah, 3D sucks when you wear glasses at the movie theater. So.
Yeah, so
and that IMAX, the seats are like it's like the old stadium, like the old seating,
and they're just crammed in there.
Yep.
And you're like, and everyone in the United States is fat as fuck now, and so I'm like sitting here like this with some just morbidly obese whale, just like being like, hey, can I get some more arm room? I need room for my nachos. And I'm just like, can you
bring back the COVID spacing, please?
Please. I'm sorry.
That should be part of my A-list subscription, is that I get COVID seating.
Just like, man, like, I know. Night Owl's just like, damn, bro. Like, I mean, I've had a lot of bad experiences sitting next to super huge people in a theater and acting like I'm the bad guy for wanting to like have my own cup holder, and then they're just like bleeding over into my seat. Like, it should be like an airline thing. If you're that big, get 2 seats, and just like pull because they have the ones that pull the thing up. It's like, man, come on, man, you're or let's just design theaters if America's getting that big. Like Silver Dollar City doesn't even sell rocking chairs anymore because people got too big. And this is real facts, because I went there and I was like, where are all the rocking chairs? I miss sitting in a rocking chair and looking on the porch over the scenic mountains. And they're like, we can't do that anymore because everybody got so fat. And I was like, are you kidding me? And they go,
There's the one big one outside of the lumberjack camp.
yeah, because that's not real. But I was like, are you kidding with me? And they're like, no, all of our stuff was handmade and it was duty rated to 350 pounds, which is pretty industry standard for chairs. But too many people were coming in and crushing our chairs because they were too fat and suing us. And so we just stopped. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm not trying to fat shame anybody. I grew up incredibly overweight. But man, just ruin it for everybody else.
If Cracker Barrel quit selling, then you got problems.
This is true. What else? Okay, yeah.
Movies.
Willow. I'm going to talk about Willow, and I know Knight Allishley and I have not had this conversation yet, but I did comment on a thread where she was saying just like Warwick Davis sucks, and I'm like, hey now. So I caught the new Willow, 3 episodes that are out. It's the only episodes that are out right now, and I have to say I did not enjoy the show.
I've heard no good things.
It is not good. It is terrible. It's one of those things where they're trying to appeal to a younger audience, and a piece that their PC checkboxing has gotten to a point where they're not even concerned about story continuity. And one thing, like, you can make the main character identify as a frog and gay and whatever. I don't care. That's great. As long as it fits in the story, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. I think that's great. Make it normal, make it not feel weird. But the moment you start to make it weird is when it doesn't fit into the world. And the problem I had is with 2 of the main characters that everybody's like, "My lord, it seems like Laura Dannon is having a problem." They go, "Man, I guess I'm just a cool guy. I'm talking modern day, and I'm the daughter of so-and-so, talking like we talk in 2022. And being just so out of character for this world, and they assemble the most stupid, implausible group to go on this quest, and it's just so many of the characters are just paper thin and barely written out. And then you get to Willow, and you're like, all right, yay, Warwick Davis, here he is. And then, as I think Knight Allishley put, the complaint that she had on this thing was, oh, did he forget how to act? And I was like, well, watching this, I'm like, Willow's the only one that's actually playing the same character that he did in the original film, which he was like 17 when he was Willow. And it's not like Willow was, Macbeth or anything. He was just like an idiot wannabe sorcerer that screwed everything up, but had a heart of gold and somehow managed, through his heart of gold, made it work. And seeing Warwick Davis is just like the same Willow, and I was kind of impressed.
Warwick Davis has continued to work for a long time, and he's been in a lot of projects and not far off history. So I don't think that in an event that it seems like he's acting poorly is going to be on him. If anything, it's probably direction.
The
he's
production.
Given.
Yeah. And I feel,
because if he like kills a scene on set and just like, that's fucking acting right there, then the director might be like, what if you did it more like cardboard with a stick in your butt? And he'd be like, I don't think he's like, but the character, right? So they're given direction. They don't get to have just free run of. Well,
you think about Warwick Davis. I mean, he's the Leprechaun, dude. He's played 100 different characters in like the Star Wars movies. He's like 5 different characters in the Harry Potter universe. He's like the head of Gringotts. I think he is Gringotts, and he's Professor Flitwick, and he's, he can act. This dude's got chops.
He plays himself in what's the show where they have like the acting agency. It's like a British comedy show.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it, but
yeah.
But
Life is Short.
Life is Short, yeah. And watching the show, everything feels out of place, and nothing feels like it exists. And the world of Willow, it doesn't feel like they didn't create this world. They didn't craft this world. It just feels like generic fantasy world, you know, and they're referencing this race of, you know, the Pecks, which is a bad word. You probably shouldn't say it.
Peck.
Yeah, as Velvet Santa pointed out. You know, and they're making references but it just doesn't feel immersive as a world. And, you know, Velvet Santa asks how the music was. They use a couple of the same themes, but it feels so CW modern, and it is kind of gross, and it doesn't pull you into the mythos. It doesn't pull you into the world, and they keep referencing like Mad Mardigan, like he's going to show up, and he's not going to show up because it's Val Kilmer and he can't.
No, he's in it.
Is he in it?
Yeah, he might not be in the episodes that are out yet, but he is in the show.
Holy shit!
We talked about that.
Did they CGI him?
No, he shows up.
Okay, well, I'll keep watching for that. Now, she says, I think you missed my other comment that said, a part of what you're pointing out, there were some things I didn't feel like the Willow I loved, but it's hard to watch because it didn't feel right. Yeah, I mean, it's true. And
they probably Top Gunned
him. And I agree with you. It does not feel like the Willow. It doesn't feel like the movie. It doesn't have the magic. And maybe that's because Laura Dannon doesn't know how to do magic anymore because she sucks. And
movies don't. We talked about that. Movies don't know how to do magic anymore. Something like Willow that was made in the 80s when there was a time of movie magic still, and computers were in their infancy, and they were being used for like ultimate good instead of people's spank bank machines and stuff instead. And they're like, what if we just CG everything? Movies were better.
Well, Velvet Santa asks, is anything as we remember it as kids? And this is a big one. This is a big question. I could spend a whole show on this.
The cool thing about a movie is that you can go back and you can watch it now and you can find out. And Willow is still Willow.
Yeah, and Night Owl, she says there is a trend to put those modern-day political talking points, and it can be done well, and then it's like shoved down your throat bad. And yes, that's where it goes back to what I was saying. It's like you can make it natural. You can make, you know, anybody that gets online is mad about two boys kissing or two girls kissing can go fuck right off. Like wake up. It's been happening forever. It's gonna happen forever. But when you shove it down your throat, or you take something that's modern, politically charged, and you go, we're gonna rewind back 1,000 years in a fantasy world and make the same problems here. It's like you have an opportunity to make it not a problem here, to make it normal. Like that's why Star Trek was always so cool. Is because it's like, hey, let's go in a world where we don't have the same problems, and look how awesome things are. And you know, and when you're just hammering it down, you're actually making the problem worse by like alienating people that it feels weird to. And nobody likes things shoved down their throat. You know, and you can do this tastefully. You can have female knights. You can have, you know, people of color. You can have all of these things. You can have minority representation. You could even have a handicapped guy, like, you know, the wheelchair guy can be there. There was a show, I can't remember what the show was, but it had, it was Lock and Key on Netflix. There was a kid that didn't have any legs. He had like prosthetic legs, and it was like he was just the character, not like, hey, I'm prosthetic leg guy. Don't forget, I don't have legs, but I'm still acting and I still got cast. Remember, take a look. It wasn't like that. It was just a dude. Like, yeah, we got a handicapped friend. It's cool. It's tight. It's whatever. Everybody does. And more things need to do this instead of like, you know, just beating it over a hammer and making it super awkward. And this movie or this series is just everything. They're spending too much time trying to modernize something when the whole purpose of making this show is to bring back a beloved thing and expand it. And instead of doing that, they're like, nah, we're just gonna put a coat of paint on it and put a sassy princess that wants to swing a sword. It's like we're gonna do something new. It's like, dude, we've been doing sassy princesses that also fight swords for like the past 30 years.
Not even close, guy, because Jennifer Lawrence said.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence, the first female
lead action role ever.
God.
Because Hunger Games, groundbreaking.
That was my first drive-in speaker box spit take, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, well, that's not what she meant to say. What she meant to say was that she feels like she was the very first action role for a female lead ever to have happened ever. Not that she was, but that she feels like she was.
Jeez. Night Ashley also pointed out Dragon Prince is pretty rad with managing it. Agreed. You know, they had a deaf character on that felt so normal and so just, here it is. It's just this character, not like freeze frame. We included a deaf person. Look at how awesome we are for this deaf character, and everyone going, look, you're deaf and we accept you. Like it was just the character's deaf and does sign language, and it's awesome, and she's a badass, and she's a she and a knight, and it doesn't feel weird. And Dragon Prince is actually really good. If you're not watching it, you should. It's a pretty great show. Lots of great inclusion too, without feeling super stupid and down your throat. Anyway, yeah, I'm not feeling Willow, which sucks because I really love that movie. And I don't know. I like Warwick Davis. I've always liked Warwick Davis. He seems like a really cool dude.
That's true. I've never heard anything bad about him. He seems rad, and like his kid acts and all that stuff, and those little interviews with like him and his boy, like them doing acting together, seems really cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was a really fun set to be on, but I'm not really enjoying this show. But thanks, Disney. So there you have that. Yeah. Did you watch anything you want to just like?
I just watched
zip through.
Yeah, I watched. I can zip through it real quick because there's not much to it. I watched Netflix Pinocchio. You know, what's his name?
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, del Toro's Pinocchio on Netflix. Stop animation is cool. I'm glad that they're doing some stop animation projects and stuff like that. The rest of it, not cool. Basically, the idea is, what if they got way too many celebrities, threw them into a movie about Pinocchio, but this time, Pinocchio is not set in a pre-technology time. It's not set in the 1800s as it was in its originality or anything like that, but instead, it's set in post-World War I, pre-World War II, Mussolini, Italy, where they want to co-opt Pinocchio to be a immortal soldier for the glory of Italia.
So Geppetto is like making a cyborg.
No, so Geppetto didn't even, he like made him while he was on a drunken tirade, upset that his child was killed by errant German bombs, and he was just like drunk and wasted and made Pinocchio and was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll finish it tomorrow. And then mystery magic fairies brought Pinocchio to life.
I got no strings to hold me down.
Yeah,
I'll take this gun. I'll shoot this clown. Like
kind of like he's just like a psychopath weirdo, which is closer to how like the original stories and things were.
I mean,
you know,
you're kind of selling me on it.
The thing is that Pinocchio's innocence makes him like so out of touch with everything because he knows nothing. So he's like Geppetto's murdered son's soul taken and put out of place into the Pinocchio body.
So he child's plays Pinocchio.
Kind of, but he doesn't know that he's the kid. All he knows is that he's like a 10-year-old that was brought into the world but doesn't know anything leading up to those 10 years. So he doesn't know how things work. He doesn't know not to trust people. He doesn't know the word no. He just does things, right? On impulse.
Like American children.
And then consequences happen. Yeah, kind of. And then you have Philip J. Fry, Cricket, who is Ewan McGregor, who lives inside of Pinocchio because Pinocchio was carved out of the tree that he decided to write his memoirs in. One cool thing about it is that all of the written language appears in Italian. So even though they're speaking English, all the words they put are like Italian, which is cool. Kind of neat.
I mean, you're selling me on it now. I kind of want to see it.
Here's the thing. It's like over 2 hours long. Ugh. It's like over 2 hours, and it's a musical. A very awkward musical. Talking about Harry Potter, you know the dude who's the angry janitor and the man that murdered the Stark family?
Yeah.
He's Geppetto and he sings.
Now I'm sold. How is this not awesome?
It's weird, man.
I love weird.
But at the same time,
totally up my alley.
Mussolini's like taking over Italy. It's fascist Italy, and they're like, "Well, we're gonna make Pinocchio a soldier." And Pinocchio dies and is reborn time and
it's
time
like
again.
that Tom Cruise movie?
From like a weird sphinx. No, the sphinx thing is like you have to wait till the sands run out, and each time it's going to take longer until it takes eternity where you'll live with me forever. And Pinocchio's like, but I'm going to ask you questions while I'm here, and I'm going to be annoying. No, too soon. And then he gets brought back to the real world, and like, I told you you'd come back to life. Now kill him again.
I want to see this movie so bad.
It's not as cool as I'm making it sound. I'm making it sound way cool, but it's not cool. The stop motion thing will be definitely up your alley.
It all sounds completely up my alley.
I mean, so the cricket, whose name is not Jiminy, his name is like Philip J. Cricket. He has a mustache. That's kind of cool.
I'm going to have to see this movie. I'm going to watch this movie at some point. So, expect a second review of Pinocchio where I'm like, whoa, dude.
Tom Kenny is the voice of Mussolini. So they're like, who should I pick for the fascist leader of Italy? And they're like, SpongeBob.
You
dude.
have not said a bad thing yet. Like, this movie sounds awesome. But anyway, we are out of time to talk about it. We got to do the box office roundup because it is that time of clock.
It's weird. I didn't care for it. It drags. It drags on too long.
Okay.
I'm hitting some highlights. It drags for this 2 hours. So just be ready for that.
All right. Well, let's do the box office roundup. It's the box office roundup for December 9th through December 11th, 2022, the one that we just passed. We're going to give you the top 10 movies in America like we always do because America only cares about the top, and we give you domestic numbers only because that's what the studios look at to give you green lights for future sequels.
Before we get into it, Velvet Santa said, and you still haven't watched Pauly Shore's Pinocchio. I did.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I watched it and I talked about it on the show. It's straight to DVD Russian Pinocchio, and it's weird too,
buddy. All right, well, we're going to start with number 10, and we're going to work our way out to number 1, and I'm going to hand it over to Jake. Number 10, if you please.
Coming in at number 10, climbing from the 21st spot in its second week of release, $679,000 brought in by Spoiler Alert, bringing its domestic total to $782. It gained 777 theaters. It won that little jackpot pool of a slot machine number of theaters, and that brought it up 11 spots. So go it. And then number 6, also in its second week of release, I Heard the Bells.
An all Fathom event, too.
Oh, how about that? Yeah. It brought in $791,000. No, I'm looking at the wrong line. You threw me off. $750,000. Its second week release, bringing in its total of $4 million so far. So it had a killer first week.
Yep, a lot of Fathom events, as Event says, lots of screenings.
Well, yeah, lucky for them, there's not many choices out there, which is a good time for them to weasel on in with things. Coming in at number 8, its first week Fathom event. I think is this the one you're going to, Vince? The Met Opera The Hours brought in $791,000 for its total there. See where it goes. Most Fathom events are only like
a week or two tops.
1 or 2 days. Yeah, some of them will extend to like a week or two, but it's like only a few days of the week. But most of them like 2 days. Yeah, it's Saturday and Wednesday. So they had a Saturday show. That's how you get a weekend total. Conan today and tomorrow only. 40th anniversary. Mm-hmm. If you want to see it, you got to catch it tomorrow. And then coming in at number 7, climbing a spot there as well in its 5th week out, not really in that many theaters. We do have it here.
It is here.
I thought about watching it, but I had a lot of things to do, and the idea of sitting through a movie that long that's just a Steven Spielberg patting himself on the back type looking movie, I couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
I did the same thing.
I was like, I could watch the Fabelmans.
I had a couple hours to kill, and I was like, I can't kill him this way.
I was going to watch Devotion too, but the showtimes made it where I wouldn't be able to do any of my errands, and it made it tough. I do want to watch Devotion, but Fabelmans brought in $1.1 million, bringing its domestic total after 5 weeks to 7.3. It also gained 335 theaters. So
still not even in 1,000 yet, though.
Right. It's still fresh, even though it's been out for a while. And then number 6, another one that climbed a spot. This is unusual how many movies are going up in spots. Black Adam brought in $1.3 million, bringing its domestic total as only $166.8 million.
DC.
That's bad for 8 weeks. probably better than what some people thought, but not as good as Warner Brothers would have ever wanted for it to be, which is probably why you're getting all this news about DC restructure. And which also, too, they're saying Black Adam probably won't continue after this, despite being the only thing that got some eyes back on DC for even a little bit. And then sticking around at number 5, the movie I was just mentioning there, in its third week out, brought in $2 million, bringing its domestic total up to almost exactly $17 million. It too gained 53 theaters. Lots of these adding theaters and climbing the list.
Just trying to get in there before Avatar just goes.
Yeah, but between Black Panther and Avatar, they're like, now's the sweet spot. Do it. And then hanging in tight at number 4 in its fourth week of release, another slot machine pool, 444. The Menu brought in $2.7 million, bringing its domestic total to $29 million.
It's a really good movie.
By him. I will probably watch it when it's streaming. I know we don't like that kind of thing, but that's when I'll get a chance. And then sticking around at number 3, there is no changes in these spots. Strange World in its third week, another slot pull, 333.
It's very weird that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hasn't moved.
Yeah, not at all. And then the other ones are kind of trading with themselves. But Disney's Strange World, $3.7 million, bringing its domestic total as only $30 million. No advertising is going to do it in. Disney never learns their lesson about that.
Nope.
They're like, well, why did no one watch John Carter from Mars? We didn't advertise it at all. There was one trailer for 2 seconds, and then we
changed the name of the movie twice.
Yeah. So there you go. Strange World, same fate. Number 2, another slot pool, 2, and second week of release, Violent Night. Reviewed that on the show. I think we both watched it. Not a bad movie.
No, I really enjoyed Violent Night. Thought it was pretty good.
Brought in $8.7 million. It too added 41 theaters, and it now has $26.7 million at the box office. Probably not too bad for like a smaller action Christmas type movie. And then holding tight at number 1, not going anywhere until this weekend. In its 5th week out, Black Panther, domestic total $409 million. 11 of that was brought in this weekend, which sounds like a lot of money compared to everything else we were just talking about. But
they're still not happy with it.
Supposedly, this is like one of the most dismal weekends of the entire year. The box office total across the entire country was only like 32.6 million or something like that.
Vince had a couple of comments on Twitch. The first one was, holy crap, a re-release of Father Stew is 23. It's actually playing here.
Yeah, what's it? It's called Father Stew, and then there's like a colon and something.
It's like a re-release.
Yeah.
And then also says, neither of you guys saw Black Panther. No, again, it was a 3-hour movie.
Bro, you've asked before, can we go a show without Marvel? Can we go a show without Harry Potter or something like that? I'm doing you a favor. I'm not watching a Marvel movie. I'm doing me a favor. I'm not watching a Marvel movie.
These 3-hour movies.
I have no desire to watch Marvel for any reason, man.
Especially not like, I mean, this is my busy season. I can't sit and watch a 3-hour movie in October, November, or December. I just can't do it.
I'm not gonna watch Angela Bassett be like, Chadwick Boseman died, this is a bummer, and then Shuri, whatever that actress name is, but they're like, Shuri's Black Panther now, and they're like, by the way, we got girl Iron Man who built her own suit and she's coming in hot, and Namor who's a
guy,
Mexican Indian type character dude, and we have all the things. I don't need it, man. It's just, I used to read comic books at one point in my life, and Marvel movies have always hurt me, but now it's just too much and they suck and I don't want to do it. I really don't need Black Panther in my life. I'm sorry. I'm not going to watch Avatar either. I'm going to let him do that.
Like, remember when stories...
I've never watched the first Avatar.
...were about telling stories and not about selling shit? Like, I mean, it's always a little bit about selling shit, but it seems like the good stories just naturally sold. Now it's just like they're engineered to just take our money, and it's not... It doesn't... you know, I mean, because the idea of it all sounds pretty cool, but it's just the execution of it just, I mean, because, yeah, I used to be really into comics too, and you hear all the, you know, there's so many cool, you know, different perspectives, and you get to travel the world, and you get to, you know, see different ideas, and you learn about different people and different cultures, and like, yeah, comics are really, really cool that way. And now it's so, while like Jake just said, it feels like it's trying to introduce you to all these different inclusive, shove down your throat things in a way that just is like, look, you're not even telling these stories. You're just trying to sell your shit. And, you know, I think it hurts guys like us feelings the most because we know these stories are really good because we read them. Mm-hmm. And you're like, So, yeah.
I have plenty of books with really cool adventures from T'Challa and Storm and
Namor,
the trials and tribulations of Wakanda. Yeah, and I have it where Namor is like a cool dude. I don't want to watch this crap on screen, man. You know, if I have to make myself suffer through a Marvel movie for you guys, I'll probably watch the next Ant-Man movie. But I'm going to be so upset
mainly
about
because I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I like Paul Rudd, which is really why I'm going to do it. And it has Michelle Pfeiffer, and it has old Wall Street dude. Why can't I remember his name? Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'll watch that. That seems cool. But Kang is going to upset me. Kang is going to upset me.
Well, Night Owlishly, again, you hit the nail on the head. And that's, I think that anybody who watches the show knows that we completely agree. It's like representation matters and is very important. It's just not when it feels like a pandering marketing ploy.
A piece of news I forgot to mention, Time's Icon of the Year, Michelle Yeoh.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, a movie that is all about representation and inclusion, and it matters, and it's important, is Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that is a masterpiece. I would watch that on repeat for 3 days and Michelle, not get tired of it.
She is 60 now, and the majority of her life has been spent doing film, and it's good to see her getting some international recognition finally, because people like us, we've probably known Michelle Yeoh's name for a long time.
20s.
But they said that now, since Everywhere, Everything All at Once, or whatever, now she's a household name. It's like, what do you mean? She was a Bond girl, bro.
Yeah,
like,
dude. I was watching Michelle Yeoh movies when I was a teenager. And like, because I was really into Hong Kong action films.
Story.
Yeah, Police Story is the coolest. And I'm like, yo, and I had a big old crush on Michelle Yeoh, and because she was so awesome. And it's like, it's taken this long.
Yeah, she's in Crouching Tiger, which was like the biggest movie on the planet.
And it's still that didn't become a challenge.
Yeah, she's a Bond girl, and people are just like, I don't know
who's this Asian lady? And it's like, you guys are the problem. Y'all are the reason we have all these shitty stories, is because they're good ones that are out there you're not appreciating. You need Marvel to like grab it and cram it and make you feel both guilty and sort of like, oh well, yeah, I'm not gonna, I'm on board with this.
Yeah, because when Everything Everywhere All at Once or whatever, they're like, that's Shang-Chi's mom.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know, it's hard educating people.
But I forgot to mention that, and I thought about it a minute ago, and that gave me a perfect opportunity to bring it up. Go Michelle Yeoh.
Vince says, I finally watched it yesterday. It seemed too much towards the end until it wasn't, and it was beautiful. Yes, that's like the magic of that movie, because there are some parts where you're just like, okay, I get it, and it feels like it's about to start being too much, and then you're like, oh, but you got me.
See, that's why I can't watch Black Panther, because it's just going to be too much, and it's going to end by being too much, and I don't like
one of my favorite too much scenes that sucks until it doesn't is from A Ghost Story, and it's the pie scene. And if you've never watched A Ghost Story, I don't want to spoil it. Anyway, it's a 9-minute scene of I think it's Rooney Mara eating an entire pie, like sitting down and eating the whole thing and sobbing and processing.
I thought you were going to say Eugene Levy walked in on the ghost and there's like a hole in the pie.
Yeah, this is not the same pie, but it's a beautiful scene. Like by about minute number 4 or minute number 5, as Dina says, that pie scene was difficult. Like either you're having a difficult time watching it, or you're like, this is ridiculous, this doesn't make any sense, why is this scene still happening? And then by the time you get to that end of that scene, you're crying, and it's one of those things where it's too much until it wasn't. And seeing something like that, it's very rare for a director to be able to pull that kind of shit off, and kudos to the ones that do. So anyway,
or an actor who can eat an entire pie on the screen.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an amazing moment in both a directorial choice and a performance, because that's not an easy performance. So anyway, we have gone way over our time. We're going to get out of here. We got to wrap this thing up. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share it, tell your friends, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. If you get on Twitch, you can subscribe and then we get that money. Vince actually clipped our spit take over on Twitch, so you can grab that one there and take a look, or you can participate in the chat. We chat all week long over on our Discord, so you can throw in, you can hear one of our viewers, Dina, speculate all of her mathematic skills on the box office and fun links and all that kind of stuff all over the place. So anyway, we're going to get out of here. And as always, I am Bo, the boom operator.
I'm Slick Doggy the Grip.
And we will see you guys next week.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.